What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me, but I just got home off of an early morning flight, right? First thing through the door, I want to see my family. I love my family. You know, I'm a family man. I'm an advocate for families, right? Second thing, I got to get that hot shower because I got to throw the threads on. The threads make me feel like $1,000,000, but the third thing through my mind and all throughout the trip is that I gotta have that Teej pack. Teej makes my life uncomplicated. It's uncomplicated skincare for men. The first way that I started specifically was their level 1 system. It's a daily face wash to get rid of the dirt and grime on your skin. 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of the dead skin cells. An AM moisturizer with SPF 20 because you should always be protecting your skin from the sun, and a PM moisturizer to help your skin stay hydrated and healthy throughout the night. Here's the thing. My favorite part about Teej Henley is that every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. They really making the process of achieving and maintaining amazing skin for men uncomplicated. In addition to amazing skin, members of Teej Henley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, the ability to customize your box, exclusive monthly deals, you can pause and cancel at any time, and you get free shipping. And because Teej Henley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers an amazing deal, right? Just click the first link in the description and you get 30% off your first box, plus a free gift. It's an amazing deal. You got to get started today. You're not out here trying to look like a Dusty. And if you travel as much as I do, which I'm sure most people don't, but you know me, I'm pushing my bag chasers in order to be in the top 5%, top 10%, top 1%. We got to make our lives uncomplicated, and Teej Henley is no better product. You got to look good. You got to smell good. And you can't be looking like a Dusty. Make sure you get started today. Click the link in the description. Get that Teej pack. Feel the Teej, my friends. What's going on is Anton from AntonDaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. What up, friends and family? What's happening? We back? What up, Brittany B? Interesting news today. We got a full show today. Hey, I'm back on black. I'm back on black. I did it as long as I possibly could. Shout out to Messy Mathematician. I held on to the silver fox as long as I possibly could. And I said, you know what? We got to wrap it up. Let me call my barber. Get my barber over here in order to fix me up, hook me up, get me back to business. And I'm feeling like myself today. I only got 3.5 hours of sleep last night because, you know, business don't sleep. Business don't sleep. I got 3 and look at Messy. Messy acting extra. Girl, what is wrong with you? I smell good. My teeth are white. Breath smell good. Beard back all the way black. Listen. Holla at me when I'm 50. I got 9 more years. When I'm 50, I'll consider it. I know the ladies say they love gray. You love black too. Don't worry about it. You love black too. We'll get there. What up? What's going on? It is a Thursday, October 26, 2023, year of our Lord. I personally got paid today. I guess it doesn't really matter because it goes straight into the brokerage account, whatever is left after maxing out on the 401k. You know, this is around a time of the year where I encourage my bag chasers and my Patreon members. And I am going to be doing a live stream on Sunday night because I want to do a live stream before I head over to DC and kick it with y'all for those of y'all that's not going to be in DC. But this is around the time of the year where you start to adjust for maxing out your 401k or your Roth 401k, depending on which one that you have. And the reason that you want to kind of pace yourself is you want to make sure for the most of you that get a match. A lot of you get a 100% match. Some of you get a 50% match. Most people get like a 50 or a 25% match. Some people get a 100% match. When I was at the University of Michigan, one of the reasons why I decided to go over to the University of Michigan was because I didn't need the money, but I was able to leverage their benefits in order to be able to get a double match. Yes, when I worked at the University of Michigan, I don't know if they still do it or not. I'll have to tap into some of my comrades. I was able to get a double match on my retirement contribution. So we was maxing out on that every single year. When you have a conversation with people and you're trying to explain to them how money works, most of them won't get it because they don't understand what net worth truly means, and they think it's based off of how much you earn or how much your salary is or how much you're paying in taxes. When I hear people say a lot of times, I'm in a different tax bracket, it makes me cringe. Because when was the play ever to pay as much money as you can to the federal government? And then why are we still looking at paying taxes in the same way that they're finessing you when you go into the store and they say, well, we know you can't afford that. Oh, man, I'm going to go and buy the whole store. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. For those of you that are just tuning in, shout out to my Facebook family. We had a couple of mishaps and missed streams because there was some technical difficulties, but Facebook got it back up on their end. So shout out to my Facebook family out there in the streets. I appreciate you. My YouTube family, what up, though? Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel. Also, Teach Hanley, 30% off of your first order plus a free gift. In the building. So on top of my game, I'm coming in through the ceiling. Yeah, messy. Don't be messy. If you do not have that Teach Hanley, ladies, make sure you get it for your fellas. Fellas, make sure you don't wait for your ladies to get it for you. 30% off your first order plus a free gift. That link is in the description. If you messing with any of the Teach pack, get rid of it. Get with mines. We running it up over at the Bag Chasers. Also, make sure you tap into the Patreon so that you can get that live stream over this weekend. For those of you that don't get the live stream, you'll be able to replay it based off of the recording. Also, the weekend after this one, we're meeting up in DC, so that location is there. Make sure you give a comment on that post, the most recent post inside of the Patreon, to let me know whether you're coming or not, so I can make sure that everything is taken care of. And then last but not least, shout out to Jay Will. I'm going to read that super chat shortly. Last but not least, I am doing the Investing in Business in November. Investing in your business, where I've allocated at least $20,000. And I'm going to distribute it in $1,000 and $2,000 increments based off of your pitches in order to help you guys get your businesses started. And I want to make sure I bless you guys before Christmas. So shout out to you guys. I appreciate you. I love you. Let me get a mental health check in the chat. How y'all feeling? You tired? One word. You tired? You feeling good? You blessed? You optimistic? You encouraged? You rich? One word. Give me a general idea of what your sentiment is. Shout out to Brittany B. Last time I was in DC, she was there with me at the Cheesecake Factory. Hey, Brittany, remember me and you was hanging out at the Cheesecake Factory the last time that I did DC? Last time. Ain't that ironic? Me and Brittany B were hanging out at the Cheesecake Factory. You said committed, okay, blessed, sleepy, exhausted, disappointed because of my beard dying. Sleepy, productive, goofy, motivated, exhausted, driven, grinding, busy, annoyed, eyed, okay, motivated, pleasant, blessed, hungry, inspired, great, determined, gatekeeping, focused, grinding, enriched, focused, supercalifragilistic. I'm not doing it, Millennial Mark TV. I'm not reading Messi's no more. I might have to take her badge for that. Unmotivated, popping, recognized, thankful, living, hungry, full, solid, elevated, energetic, egregious. Don't be stealing my word. Focused, happy, not betting, blessed, dragging, healthy, humble, thankful, good. So I got a general idea of how people live in a day. All right, invigorated, heavy, relentless, great. Y'all feeling good today. It must be a lot of people that got paid today. Purpose, blessed, happy, relaxed, grateful, present, appreciative, stressed, excited, old, blessed. All right, so I got a general idea of what the people feeling like today. Fasting. All right, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right, I got a full show for y'all today. We're going to go over to Broward County. We're going to bring them to the front of the congregation. I meant to bring them to the front of the congregation yesterday, but I had some things to get off my chest. Broward County, we're going to address the Ford UAW tentative agreement. We're going to talk about scabs. Yep, we're going to talk about scabs. And then we're going to talk about the rich having a recession and how that affects you. So we got a full show lined up today. It's Thursday. A lot of us got paid today. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm. For those of you that didn't jump into the live stream last night, it was fire. I'm not even going to cap. It was fire. I'm getting better. I thought I was up to here. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I've been doing this for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. I've been a content creator for longer than a lot of you guys have been on YouTube. I've been cooking up for a long time. I'm getting better with age. Every day I feel like I'm getting better. I think I'm getting greater. My ability to be able to communicate my thoughts more effectively, to pace myself. I'm getting better with age. It's crazy out here in these streets. Let me give an early shout out to my dog, Mike That Dude. Mike That Dude is in the building. Shout out to my dog, Mike That Dude on Cash App, continuing to hold me down. I appreciate you. Let me acknowledge the king right now. Jay Will is in the building, says, blessings to you, Anton. Man, I had to pull over from driving to drop a blessing in the plate. Man, you were preaching on the live you did last night as someone that's in the ugly duckling phase. Everything you said was facts. Thanks for all the game that you give. Shout out to my dog, Mike Will. Holding me down and listen, I don't ask for the super chats or anything like that. I don't ask for cash apps, but I do want to acknowledge the people that acknowledge me and hold me down on these platforms because you see the value that I give to you. I gave $1 million worth of game yesterday. Last night, in real life, in real time, on a live stream, nothing pre-recorded, I gave you $1 million worth of... Look, all of these gurus, these coaches, these relationship coaches, these people that's in the streets, everybody that you think is the ones that can give you the game on how it is that you need to be able to move in your money, your finances, your relationships, and your marriages, they can't touch me. I'm going to be straight up and down. When I got off that live last night, I was just thinking to myself, I've elevated. Honestly, I've elevated. If you did not save that live stream from Wednesday night on my other channel, sorry to the people on Facebook, you're going to have to come over to YouTube and come and check that out. If you did not save that from last night, I might have to remove that and make that only available to the Patreon members and the bag chasers because the way that I was cooking up last night, it was out of control. I don't think there's nobody in the sphere on the internet that is touching me when it comes to my ability to communicate effectively on what it takes in order to be successful and successfully married. I don't think that it's a person on the internet that can touch me. That's a fact, though. And I'm not even going to take 100% of the credit. I'm going to give a lot of the credit to God. I have to. Because for those that know, and I know I talk about God every day, but I'm not going to shortchange God on his credit. For those that know, thank you, Jay Will, I appreciate you. When it come over you, when it hits you, you just let it roll. My job is to try to tame it so that I can start to make sure. And you got to think, I'll be talking for like an hour straight, and I'll be thinking to myself, oh my God, I got so much that I still got to get out. And then I pull back. It's crazy. It ain't nobody. And I'm saying it confidently because it's something that's powering me that's way beyond anything that anybody can tap into on their own personally. Flat out. You're not really even fighting me at this point. You fighting God. I know you feel a certain type of way about me saying that. You're not fighting me right now. You fighting God. If you fighting against me, if you fighting against what it is that I'm communicating to you, you fighting God. You're not fighting me. I ain't even got to fight the battle. The battle ain't mine. The only thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be a vessel. When I pray to God in the morning, I say, give me what I need in order to give to the people what it is that they need, and let me touch somebody in order to change their life in a positive way. Use me how you see fit. I don't beg. I don't ask. I'm thankful. I ask him for what it is that I need to do, what changes I need to make in order to be a reflection of what it is that I'm advocating for people to become. And then I say, use me as a vessel. If you want to fight me, then you can fight if you want to, but you're not really fighting me. You're fighting God. Real talk. It's beyond me at this point. I'm not capable. I'm genuinely a C student. There's no reason why I should be able to cook up the way that I cooked up last night. If y'all don't save that live stream, I think I'm going to remove it. Anyways, let's continue to keep on keeping on with the show. All right. Again, thank you to everybody that support the platform. I will be reading super chats throughout the show. Also, let me give an acknowledgement to, again, Mike that dude. I also want to shout out Ruchi Reynolds for the fireball. And then I also want to give an acknowledgement to Paris Johnson. Thank you guys for holding me down on Cash App. I appreciate you guys. You are absolutely awesome. What y'all say? We get started with the show? Y'all ready to get started with the show? Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Man, I'm operating off of 3.5 hours of sleep, and I'm feeling refreshed as ever. I'm feeling more refreshed than ever before. Let's get it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so before we get over into the thick of things, one thing that I did last week, or was it the week before? I think it was last week. I brought Broward County to the front of the congregation last week. Or it might have been late in the week before. Who knows? But I brought Broward County. Shout out to Broward County. If you're not familiar with it, it's over in Florida. I believe over in the Fort Lauderdale area. I brought Broward County to the front of the congregation. And the reason why I brought Broward County to the front of the congregation was because 17 officers, over 100 were investigated. So everybody must have a thriving business over there with employees. 17 officers were arrested, cuffed, and then turned over to the federal authorities for getting PPP loans and not actually deserving of PPP loans. They did. Your federal authorities, your deputies, your sheriffs, they did the walk of shame. And I had been telling people, hey, man, Biden extended it to like 10 years to where they can then investigate you and find you. Once they find out you did that PPP loan, it ain't going to be nice. It's not going to be nothing cool. There's nothing cool about fast money. Fast money don't last, man. But you know what else don't last? Shout out to Brittany. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. You can't do things that you're not supposed to do and not expect to have to be brought to the front of the congregation for it. That walk of shame is not worth it. No matter what it is that you think that you're getting away with, even if you got away with it that time, it's not worth it. If you thought that you got away, you need to just go ahead and remove yourself from it and then ask God for forgiveness and keep it moving and pray to God that it never comes back to haunt you. But Broward County, the same sheriff that announced the PPP loan arrests, he's announcing something new. Let me go ahead and share that with you. Make sure y'all get the likes up, all right? Hold on, let me turn the volume up for y'all.
I think most of you at this point understand why we are here, and I'm just going to update the community in the general scheme of over the last 5 years, I've continued to echo this message across this entire county that this office will be transparent and we're going to be accountable. Meaning, when we know, this community is going to know. And the repercussions behind us knowing is someone is going to be held accountable to the degree as to whether they're disciplined from a suspension all the way up through termination. Just a few weeks ago, I was standing amongst you all talking about an internal investigation that we launched related to this PPP scandal. Standing here with the U.S. Attorney General, 17 members were indicted. We put the handcuffs on them and turned them over to our federal partners. And once again, we're in a position where we had to arrest one of our own. Not something that we're proud of, but most certainly something that I'm satisfied in the sense that our Public Corruptions Unit, our Office of Inspector General, and in this particular case, our Internet Crimes Against Children are doing precisely what we need them to do in terms of holding criminals accountable.
It's one thing to do a money scheme. It's another thing to do something and to be accused of something that you didn't do with regard to women. We could try to figure that out. I think the one thing universally, it used to be women and children, but the one thing universally that none of us disagree with, I'm hoping, is that we don't play when it comes to crimes against children. We just don't do it. We can disagree when it comes to the gender war. You can disagree when it comes to politics. You can disagree when it comes to God. You can disagree when it comes to money. You can disagree when it comes to what side of the fence that you on the UAW strike. But the one thing that I don't see anybody having a war against as far as where the debate is supposed to go is whether or not you should be committing crimes and its association with children. Let's continue.
Let's skip past the fact that we're talking about a deputy. A criminal is a criminal. I don't care if you're wearing a star on your chest or if you're a civilian. We're going to treat you all the same, which means we're going to hold you accountable to the laws of this state. Unfortunately, earlier today, we had to arrest one of our deputies who's been here employed for about 6 years now, 35-year-old Deputy Thomas. He was involved in an incident where he was responding to a domestic violence call, and ideally, an officer goes out to a site location with the intent to protect and serve the community, or perhaps provide resources and mitigate this particular threat that may be taking place in the household. In this particular case, you got a deputy out here who did nothing more than take advantage of his powers, abuse his authorities, and solicit sexual solicitation of a minor. Now, you all have the arrest warrant, or will have access to it and have a chance to read through it, but what I can surmise from what I've been able to read and talking to our investigators, this here is one of the most grotesque and deliberate attempts to really abuse a minor in our community. Many of you heard me say this before, and I'll continue to echo and say it again. Our most viable asset in this community are our kids. And if we can't protect them, we don't have a future not only in Broward County, but perhaps impacting the whole future of this country. And so to read this affidavit, this arrest warrant, and talk to our investigators and see a lot of deliberate efforts to be nothing more than a sexual predator is an insult to this agency, it's an insult to this profession, and it's an insult to everybody who ever served in this capacity. So despite the hardships of having to arrest one of our own, I'm glad that we were able to do it and prevent a child from being abused sexually or victimized in any other form or capacity. Sticking with our standard practices and protocols, because he is a sworn law enforcement officer, afforded certain rights, he will be set aside on suspension, administrative leave without pay, pending the investigation, both internally and the criminal allegations that he's going to have to face. I'm going to pause and allow you to ask me some questions on this, because there's a lot of ways I can go, and I think this is better driven if you give me precise questions that you may have.
Sure.
The very ones. And first, let me go ahead and give some credit to this sheriff, and I forgot what his name is. Here, let me pull it up. This is the guy that is now doing the mug shot of shame. 35 years old, not even halfway done with his life, and now this dude is literally going to be, if convicted, on a sex offenders registration, and then he's going to have to live with this for the rest of his life. Broward County Deputy Jeremiah Thomas engaged in explicit text conversations with an undercover detective that he thought was a teen. 35 years old, faces charges of solicitation of a minor, transmission of harmful material harmful to minors, traveling to meet a minor, and attempted lewd, lascivious, and lascivious written solicitation of certain minors. Says that he was arrested after he engaged in sexual conversations with a teenage girl and sought to lure her to a hotel room. The sheriff that is reporting this, the one that is at the forefront of this investigation, is Gregory Toney of Broward County. One of the most disturbing yet entertaining shows that used to come on the air, and for some reason, and I'm always wondering, especially considering how wildly popular it was Chris Hansen's, when Chris Hansen would show up on To Catch a Predator. When Chris Hansen would show up on To Catch a Predator, I was always wildly entertained because the entertaining part was to see the different types of people from all walks of life and the type of excuses that they made and how shameful and how they automatically knew the minute that Chris Hansen walked in the room. And they would even ignore their instincts to show up, which I'm very, very glad that they did, because a lot of people would say, oh man, I can't believe it. No. When I see a criminal doing criminal things, I want the criminal to do it and get caught as a result of it. I don't want him to be able to get away with it. I'm not rooting for the bad guy, right? And so a lot of them would tell him, oh man, I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have came out here. But their desires for demon activity allowed for them to continue to push through, and they seen it through. They seen it through. And unfortunately, let me bring some people to the front of the congregation. It's not just this man right here. It's not just him. Unfortunately, this is normal within our communities. How many of us grew up and went to high school, fellas? You know what I'm talking about, ladies. Y'all probably was some of the ones that participated in it. How many of us was in high school and we would always see the dude with the car or the OGs pull up, older, got a job, got cars, D-boys and all of that, and they would be talking to the high school girls. How many of us grew up seeing this? How many of us grew up seeing this? Remember when the pandemic was in flight? A lot of people were so focused on the PPP loans and the stimulus checks that they was getting and the opportunity to be able to work from home. But what they didn't focus on, and what was reported, what was largely ignored, was the idea that school officials and administrators and people that were a part of our community that were intimately connected and understood exactly what was happening inside of these households were worried because the children had no opportunity for an outlet or to get outside of the house, and they were locked up basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the very ones that were offending them. And we know who they are inside of our communities. So when I see stuff like this, it saddens me, but it also gives me a level of satisfaction in that one less person that is doing the things that is so egregious to our communities is off the streets. How many of y'all fast girls that's now adults that's trying to act like you didn't know what was going on had a boyfriend, an older man, an older boyfriend when you was in school? It happens all too often. It happens all too often. Let's continue.
So did the incident that you just referenced while he was on a call, so that occurred while he was on duty?
Correct.
So are there other incidences, or is this I'm confused about the internet part of it, if this happened in?
Sure, so I can elaborate on that. From an investigative standpoint, once we got information and a tip that this deputy was involved in potential soliciting a minor and things of that nature, one of the things we wanted to do is to confirm those allegations and have our own internal investigation that would give us an opportunity to get facts. Facts is the most important part of this thing.
Reading the super chat shortly.
In order to do that, our investigators elected to work with our Internet Crimes Against Children because they have an expertise in this arena, providing all type of information to the community, safeguard measures, and we're accustomed through ICAC with dealing with sexual predators. This is what they do. This is their expertise. Our public corruption unit are the experts in terms of internal examination, investigations, but why not tap into the best resource we have, which is our own? And so our ICAC group were part of the investigation, and in this case, pretending to be a minor and having these communications back and forth. So that's their involvement.
So they did this after they heard he was doing something in person with a different minor?
With the same minor. So we'll backtrack. We go out to domestic violence call. Deputy arrives there back in September, have communications with the young girl there, 17 years of age. At some point, exchange phone numbers, have their text messages going back and forth. And throughout that texting and communicating, there had been strategic efforts to plan and meet with the minor, sexual communications, pictures being sent while on duty, exposing his penis and things of that nature. And so that really was part of ICAC's involvement, to be able to have that expertise, allow this dialogue to continue so we can have legitimate criminal charges that go beyond just administrative concerns. I'm going to go back to what I said. It's not just about administrative compliance here. We're talking about criminal behavior of the worst kind. As a law enforcement officer, there's two things I can't stand the most. One, anyone who's willing to run inside of a church, a school, and conduct a mass shooting and kill innocent, unarmed people. It's the most cowardice behavior I can imagine. The second, sexual predators. Those going out there trying to victimize our kids, because they're capitalizing on the immaturity, the lack of understanding. And if you're going to do that to a child, what else did we miss, or what else are you willing to do?
And here's the crazy part about it. So now that we get more context, basically what happened was he responded to a call, and this is my understanding of it. He responded to a call and somehow, some way ran into a young chick, 16, 17-year-old chick, right? He decided that he wanted to shoot his shot. Ain't that crazy? The very ones that's tasked with protecting you is the ones that then turn out to be the ones that's the most predatory of them all. Responded to a call, somehow, some way he ran into a 17-year-old. Then he decided to shoot his shot, was exchanging information, texting back and forth, sending text messages while on duty, sending this thing. And so once they got the tip, their job was to continue the conversation in order to be able to get the evidence necessary in order to convict him. Oh, that's crazy, man. Crazy, man. Insane.
So when we got this thing going in terms of internal affairs, we went all in.
So, Sheriff, did we have this communication of exchanging the photos and messages with ICAT, or was that also with the victim, was with both?
It's a combination of it. I think one of the things we've seen, and very good job from our public corruptions unit in ICAC, was at some point we wanted to make sure that we took the minor out of this and not expose them unnecessarily to potentially getting hurt, harmed, or injured, or any other psychological damages that may come with that type of communication when you're a minor. So it's better suited to have our investigators take the lead, handle the communications, etc., just like you would see To Catch a Predator on other different shows. Very similar background in terms of they maintained the communication, they collected the evidence, and then they submitted that in one packet with our public corruptions unit.
And then he was trying to meet this chick in a hotel room. 35-year-old man, literally talking to a woman that is, or a girl that is less than half of his age. I don't know if y'all know how to do the mental math, but 17 plus 17 is 34. Go ahead and double check that for me. I think this C student's math is okay. The math is mathing right now. He 35, talking to a chick that's 17. At some point, they got tipped off. Now, here's the most important part about it, right? Is that it then, at some point, in some way, and I don't know how they got tipped off. He didn't highlight how he got tipped off. I don't even think it matters. But this is the very thing that I've been communicating to y'all for a long time now. It takes a community that is concerned about the citizens within in order for you to fix it. If you want to get the criminals off of the street, the police can't just mythically, magically identify it without first getting some correspondence from the people that's within the community. You know who the predators are. You know who the drug dealers are. You know who the ones that are the most offensive in your community. A lot of times they are part of your family. A lot of times they are part of the fabric of what you got going on. You know who these people, we know. Black people, white people, Asian, Indian, Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to identify it as. We know what's happening within our communities, our households, and our neighborhoods. We know who the killers are. We know who the dealers are. We know who the dudes that continue to be the pedophiles. We know them all across the board. And so if you don't communicate or participate in the success of your community, don't sit here and think that somebody else is supposed to overprotect you as a result of it. The reason why these more affluent communities have better schools, have better environments, have safer streets is because they're willing to do what you're unwilling to do, and that is tell, in order to make sure that everything comes back together and they kids can actually walk down the street or play in the streets without having to worry about this police officer coming over and soliciting their kid in order to go to the hotel room. It goes back to the very thing that I keep communicating to you guys every single day. The culture is trash. And the minute that you divest yourself from this mentality in which you don't say nothing or whatever, so on and so forth, then you can start to have a safer street for your daughter or your son or your kid or whatever it is for you, so that you can go out to your car without getting your head knocked over, because they know better than to do that within your community. Let me see a little bit more of what it is that he got to say, and then we're going to move on.
Indication through your investigation that this may not have been the first time and maybe there have been other kids involved?
We haven't seen any indicators that there may have been other kids involved, but I can tell you this will be his last time. There's no coming back from this. One thing I'm getting very annoyed with is this notion that we have to keep playing this game of due process. Those things that take place. But if you read this arrest affidavit and you look at the evidence that I looked at, there's only one outcome that's going to happen here when this case is closed.
Sheriff, you said you guys got a tip. Who did you get the tip from? Parents? Was it?
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the father, correct. It was the father.
So the father found out. The father found out and tipped it off. Let me read one of these chats. We're going to go ahead and get away from this story, but I want to read somebody in the chat's question, because I get this a lot. Whenever this conversation comes up, I get this a lot. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Give me a second. I think I'm going to try to find it. All right, Rodney Denton says, hard question. I don't think it's a hard question at all. Yes, he is wrong. He's prefacing that by saying, yes, he is wrong. Yes, I think he is a predator. Would they say it was okay if she was 18 or 19? Because I think that would also be wrong. No, they would not. Because technically they are illegal. And this is the conversation that a lot of people have all the time. And people, man, I have got into straight up knockdown, drag down, people unsubscribing from the Fight Club or whatever because of a stance that I took. And I'm going to take this stance and I'm going to always stand on it. What if it was your daughter? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. I know you think that legal is legal and all of that stuff. I don't. As a 41-year-old man today, and this is just me personally, and this is another reason why we need fathers in the household. For whatever it is, the reason that you decide that you don't want your baby daddy participating, or you wanted to have children out of wedlock or whatever, so on and so forth, right? We need fathers in the household, straight up. We got to have fathers in the household, because if it was your child, you would not be cool. I'm thinking, most of you, I'm assuming, because I wouldn't, so I'm always putting myself in that position, as I have a daughter that's 15 years old, and I'm fiercely protective over her. You would not be even remotely okay. Remotely okay with the idea of a 40-year-old man trying to talk to your 17, 18-year-old daughter. I don't care who decide that they want to take a stance against me, or I ain't rocking with Anton because he don't understand the law and all of this other type of stuff. Oh man, over here in California or Maine or New Mexico, the legal age is this. Man, I don't care what your legal age is. Man, if you come over here and I find out that you trying to talk to my daughter, it's over, bro. I will crash out. I will crash all the way out. That is the one thing. The one thing, see, legal age here in Florida is 16. No, the legal age in my household is like 22, 23. When her brain is fully developed and she can make strong decisions for herself is when she is then able to step out on her own, and not a minute before then. Flat out. I don't care what y'all say the legal age is. I don't care what they used to do back in the day. I am not interested in hearing anything that they used to do back in the Army or in the 1800s and the 1700s. I don't care what the law said. I got an extended clip, hollow points. Everybody going night-night. Everybody going night-night, and that's just a fact, though. So y'all can say and feel however y'all want to feel, but I'm a little bit different. So I don't really care about what the law is in your city. I know what the law is in my household. So it is what it is. Let me read a few of the super chats, and then we're going to move over with the show. My girl, Brittany. Shout out, Brittany. Says, DC was awesome, and so was the Cheesecake Factory. Can't wait to see you both again. Shout out to Brittany B. We love Brittany. Shout out to Brittany B. Rod Jones is in the building, says, keep doing your thing, AD. Love your perspective. And yes, they are fighting God, not you. Don't kill the messenger. Shaking my head. Shout out to you, my friend, and thank you for contributing over into the platform. Indigo Omega TV and says, and then had the females talking about some only date guys that's older than me. She was 16, bro. Bro was 33. Shout out to Indigo Omega TV. I appreciate you. Messy Mathematician is in the building, says, To Catch a Predator was canceled because one of the pedos in Texas committed S. During the filming, when the police showed up, the pedo was a judge. Let's get that show back on the road. Maybe I'll do a version of it myself. Ronnie J says, love tuning in is where I get my daily dose of wisdom, honesty, and even laughter. Currently reading The Richest Man in Babylon. Reaching out for a coaching call afterwards. Your channel is definitely adding value to my life. Thank you, Ronnie J. I appreciate you. And thank you for holding me down. Thank you for the 20 ball. And thank you for continuing to participate in what we have going over here on the Millionaire Morning Show. Kanar Young says, Governor DeSantis pushes for the death penalty for these type of charges, and I'm cool with it. Wishes more state allocate the same. Now, the problem with that, though, is the one thing that we have to be careful of is false accusations, because you don't want anybody to be executed for something that they didn't do. Every single day, there are people being released from prison from being accused of something that they didn't do. We're just now starting to catch up with the technology to be able to substantiate that. So be careful with that, Kennard, because that could be a can of worms. Cornelius Toombs came out here with the 2-ball. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate you for holding me down, my friend, for the 2-ball. Make sure y'all get the likes up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, get that Teach Hanley 30% off your first order plus a free gift. And then in addition to that, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's spin over for a second. So Ford Motor Company, I've been covering and following this whole thing for months now. Brittany couldn't wait for me to get back to this. Brittany B couldn't wait for me to get over to this. I don't even want to see Brittany right now. I'm glad that the the Patreon meetup is about a week and a half from now instead of it being this weekend, because I don't want to hear Brittany talking stuff about Union Strong, Anton, we holding it down, $200 an hour. I don't want to hear none of that, Brittany. I'm going to wait till this is all done. Let's hopefully get this all taken care of before I see y'all in D.C. on November 4th. Shout out to the Bag Chasers that's going to be there. but Brittany couldn't wait for me to get to this part of the show. Ford Motor Company tentatively reached an agreement with the UAW, and it was announced last night, yesterday. Now, I have a little bit of insight as to why that happened, and we're going to mine it out completely. But let's go ahead and get this popping. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. What's going on over here? I ain't got no article. Here we go. All right, we popping. Let's get it popping, y'all.
UAW and Ford reaching a tentative deal to end a nearly 6-week strike with the automaker. Phil LeBeau joins us this morning with all of the details that have been coming out overnight. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. This is a deal that came together. The final push was this week after the UAW called out a couple of strikes, one at Stellantis, one at GM, at some very profitable plants. Ford looked around and said, we're reporting earnings on Thursday. They're going to be strong. We want to be next in line for another strike. They finalized the deal. Tentative agreement calls for a 25% pay hike over the next 4.5 years. Goes over 30% when you add in cost of living adjustments. They're also reducing the number of wage tiers, a big push by the UAW. And there's more profit sharing for retirees.
So, couple different things. First, let me say congratulations to the members over at Ford Motor Company. I am not a sore loser. I'm not. Congratulations to the people and the UAW members over at Ford Motor Company. You get what you negotiate, not necessarily what it is that you think that you deserve. And so they bullied Ford. I think that Ford made a horrible deal, personally. I think that this is going to affect them long term. But one of the reasons that Ford Motor Company decided to do this was because they have earnings being reported today, and they seen what happened with GM. So they was all in solidarity. Ford, Chrysler, and GM was all in solidarity in order to make sure that they were holding it down, right? They were working together. They wasn't caving in. And Ford Motor Company said, we got earnings reported today. GM had a blowout quarter when they reported earnings a day or two ago. We about to report earnings. We had a blowout quarter for the third quarter. And we don't really want to muddy the waters anymore, so we're going to go ahead and take this 25% pay hike over the next 4.5 years. When you add cost of living adjustments, which is COLA, that takes it up to 30%. Now, the union originally was seeking a 46% increase. 46% increase over the life of the contract, and raising the rates that they were essentially working for on an hourly basis. And then that also included profit sharing for retirees. Now, I didn't even really know that retirees can still get profit sharing checks. Where they do that at? How do retirees still get a piece of the company after they retire? I think that was horrible. Reducing wage tiers, I 100% agree with that. I don't think that, or I also believe that there should be a pathway to being a permanent employee over a period of time. Now, the flip side is this. I don't feel sorry for the people that wind up working for the company, doing the same amount of work, but getting paid less. You know why? Because that is what happens in corporate America every single day. When you come in as a contractor, when I started working at the University of Michigan, I was not an employee, I was a contractor. And so what happened was I had to show and prove, and then I had to basically highlight how great I was at what it is that I did for a living. And then I had to put myself in a position to where I then had other opportunities. And then they made the decision that they couldn't live without me. Even though they couldn't compensate me as much as what I had on the table, I wasn't necessarily looking for the money at that time. I was just looking for the great benefits. And also I wanted to keep my match. And I wanted that tuition reimbursement and assistance in order for me to continue to further my education, because I had bigger plans down the line anyway. So my goal was never to stay at the university. My goal was to leverage it and then get to a point to where I would be able to move into upper management in private America or corporate America that is much, much different than what it was that I was experiencing at the university, but I took advantage of it. My point is this. In most instances, whether you're a software engineer, a cybersecurity professional, so on and so forth, in most instances, you don't go in as a direct hire unless there's a huge need for you and they're trying to make sure that they get you in because they can't live without you, or they see the value in you on an individual basis. There are people every single day that do not get hired in, and they have to negotiate for what it is that they have and show and prove, not necessarily just have a pathway because they are who they are. But if they won that concession from the company, even though they were asking for 46% plus cost of living adjustments, they wound up getting 25%. They wound up lowering the 36%, and then they got 25%. The last that I heard, that Ford Motor Company and GM and Stellantis had a 23% pay hike over the 4.5 years of the potential contract. But now they wound up settling on 25% before they reported earnings because they didn't want what happened over to GM to happen to them. Now, one thing that they're not talking about that they didn't get, that I absolutely applaud Ford for not caving in on, was the 32-hour work week. Family. The union was asking for 32-hour work weeks, and we don't know all of the details of the contract because they have to vote on it. More details of it is going to come out, so I'm going to continue to cover it, and then hopefully they can get back to work by next week. But they were asking for 32-hour work weeks and still to have 46% pay raises. And so they had to meet them in the middle somewhere. There had to be some concessions along the way, right? But let's continue to hear what this is.
Here's UAW President Shawn Fain talking with the membership last night on Facebook.
We send this contract to you because we know it breaks records. We know it will change lives. But what happens next is up to you all.
All right, so what is next for the UAW members who have been on strike? Some of them have been on strike since September 15th. They will go back to work soon. Exactly when remains to be seen, but they're not going to wait until it's finalized. The contract is ratified. The details will be spelled out for the membership on Sunday, and the ratification vote will take place after that. That remains to be seen. Likely in the next week, week and a half, you will.
Why is my wife sending super chats? I'm going to be reading the super chat shortly. I'll get there.
See them do some type of ratification vote. But again, the important part here is that they will go back to work soon, a matter of days, not waiting until it's finalized, whether that's a week and a half from now. All of this comes as you take a look at shares of Ford at a time when the company will be reporting its Q3 results. They come in after the bell, and there will be a conference call. Analysts are expecting earnings that are going to be up about 50%. 50% compared to the third quarter of last year.
Which is one of the reasons why Ford wanted to get this deal done before they reported earnings. I think that was a smart move for them because I think it was going to be more difficult for them to be able to get the deal that they got now. But the problem with this whole agreement, from my perspective, and they're saying that earnings is up over 50%, Earnings is up over 50%. I've actually made $168 since I purchased GM yesterday. I'm going to hold on to it. They said that I made $168. The stock is up 3.5%, close to 3.5% since I purchased it yesterday. Let me go ahead and get that out there. Right here. My phone keep adjusting and making it brighter. I'll show it to you in a minute. But my point is that Ford wanted to get this done. But here's the problem, and this is the thing that people don't really understand. Ford is going to have to cut costs somewhere. They're going to have to cut costs somewhere in order to absorb these costs based off of what they were projecting to earn long term and to protect themselves and insulate themselves for the future. They're going to have to cut costs somewhere. They are going to have to drive out costs in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if they lower the research and development budget. I don't know if they drive it out with white-collar workers. I don't know if they drive it out with product reductions, if they beat up on suppliers, how much that they're issuing out money from that perspective. But Ford is going to have to drive out the cost because you still have to realize that it's a publicly traded company, and they have to answer to their shareholders.
Still strong demand, still strong pricing, especially on the F-150 and the SUVs. And as a result, that's going to be the focus of the conference call today. Not necessarily the Q3 results, but the impact of this contract agreement between the UAW and Ford. Again, that call is after the bell. they release after the bell, and then later tonight we'll get the Ford call. As for GM and Stellantis, they still have strikers in front of their plants. Three final assembly plants for General Motors, 2 for Stellantis. For GM, that strike has knocked out or stopped about 15% of its production in the United States. And for Stellantis, these strikes have now stopped about 11% of its production here in the U.S. So, guys, 1 down, 2 to go. Let's see how long it takes for the UAW to strike a deal with GM and Stellantis.
One of the things that people don't understand about automotive companies, especially traditional automakers, not Tesla, right? Because Tesla is literally the 4th automaker in the United States of America. But all automakers that's not at their core electric vehicle companies, they are not profitable when it comes to the technology that they're investing a lot of money into. They're investing a lot of money into battery technology, research and development, and they're trying to drive those costs out. And long term, that hopefully will work out for them, but they don't have the margins as far as the amount of profit that's sold per vehicle that Tesla may have, which is why Tesla is now starting to get into a pricing war in order to lower the cost, or they're lowering the cost of the vehicles while also lowering the cost of the production, which then drives the other automakers to continue to have to stick with internal combustion engines longer, which costs them more to continue to manufacture because there's more parts that's associated with it. And then last but not least, they have to pour more money into research and development. So essentially what is happening is this for traditional automakers. For Ford, Chrysler, GM, Toyota, Mazda, you name it, all of them that have internal combustion engines, when you go to the gas station, this is what's happening. They're largely depending on the huge profits that the UAW are striking for. So they're striking these plants in Arlington, Texas, and all of this stuff, right? And they're depending on these huge profits that come along with selling these big trucks that they can sell for over $100,000 on some of them. And they're depending on you to make your car payment and the finance companies to continue to issue out these subprime loans, because they then have to use that money in order to continue to invest in research and development for their future product. Now, one of the sticking points for the UAW was to write the strike for plant closures, which I believe that they got, but we're going to continue to iron out the tentative agreement later. And also on top of that was the battery plants and the technology going over to union members instead of it just being natural attrition and then eventually the plants going out of business, right? And the reason why that is because the cost to continue to manufacture it for Tesla is much cheaper. And even when it is, as far as how it is that they compensate their employees is based off of stock options and performance, which is similar to the CEO's pay, then what UAW members, they just want a higher cost of living, they just want a higher rate, and they want profit sharing checks. So they're not necessarily sharing in the pain and the profits, similar to how a Tesla is, but then at the same time, that cost is going to be built into the product no matter what. I remember when I worked for Local 600, and I was over at the Rouge factory, and one of the things that we would get was, what's the name of it? What was the name of it called? It was something that basically bridged the gap for when we got laid off. If and when we got laid off. So, for example, we would get laid off 2 weeks during the summer in order for them to be a plant turnover and all of that stuff, right? And what would happen was whenever we got unemployment pay, the company then allowed for us to get the difference through the company themselves. And so we basically got our same pay even though we were laid off. I don't know if they still do that. I don't know if that's a part of the tentative agreement. Again, I'm going to comb over it. As soon as it's released to the general public, I'll break it down to you guys from sub pay. That's what it's called, Brittany. We used to get sub pay. So sub pay is basically the difference between what you would get in your normal pay in your 40 hours and then what you were getting from your unemployment check, right? The company would then pay the difference in order to bridge you over, and that was a part of our agreement with the UAW, right? And so we always made sure that we were making the same amount of money regardless, and the only time that we would lose money is if there was a potential strike. We would get sub pay. Yep. So I'm guessing y'all still get sub pay. I haven't been in a plant in a long time. But yeah, I don't know if this is a great deal for Ford, but it was the best that they can do considering the circumstances, and they had to get this out. So now what they're going to do is they're going to try to drive costs out in other parts of the business. Here's the caveat, though. Here's the caveat. What happens 4.5 years from now? Ford has a decision to make. Ford has a decision to make 4.5 years from now. UAW members have a decision to make 4.5 years from now. In 4.5 years, your life can be completely different. In 4.5 years, your life can be completely different. You do not want to go through this again, because in 4.5 years, either Ford is going to have to do a combination of passing the cost over to consumers. We don't know what the situation is going to be. It could be another pandemic. It could be a recession. It could be a housing crisis. It could be anything. In 4.5 years, your life can be completely different. And this is what you want to look at it as from both perspectives. From one perspective, Ford is going to have to deal with the union again, asking for record profits, and they're going to do the same play, and they're going to do the same thing that they did before in order to continue to drive up the cost for employees as far as how much they're making, right? And so is Ford over the next 4.5 years going to try to insulate themselves and protect themselves by being prepared for this and not being subjected to it, considering that now they know what the play is from the UAW? The other side of the coin is it possible that there will still be natural attrition, especially considering that we have artificial intelligence, electrical vehicles, less manufacturing, and then more importantly, robotics to then simplify the process as far as what it is that you guys are going to get? Do you want to, as a UAW member, still be in a position to where you're letting the fate of what it is that's going to happen to your family be determined by whether or not the union can continue to strike historical agreements again? Are you not taking advantage of the full benefit package that you have in order to put yourself through school? You can go into trade school. You can get tuition assistance. You can then study. Over the next 4.5 years, you can now have more options than ever if you leverage this and you play this the way that you're supposed to. If you leverage this and play this the way that you're supposed to, you can have more options than ever before. You do not want to be interdependent on a company in the UAW in order to save your job, because you don't know what's going to happen. Every profit sharing check, every minor detail that's happening in your life, you want to make sure that you're lowering your cost of living. Don't use this as an opportunity to then adjust your lifestyle according to how much money you're going to be making. Hear me out. Hear me very, very clearly. You do not want to let this contract go to waste. If you are a person and you just got your job or whatever, you want to go the opposite way from what you would normally do things. Don't go out and buy a new car. Don't use this cost of living adjustment. Don't use this raise in order to continue to live a better lifestyle. Don't go out and buy another house. Don't go out and go shopping and none of that. These next 4.5 years can transform your life, and you can completely not be interdependent on this company. It doesn't mean that you have to leave the company. If it makes sense for you long term, then do so, but don't be dependent on it in order for you to survive long term. If you are a member of the union, GM, y'all about to probably come to a tentative agreement also. Chrysler, y'all too. Well, Stellantis, we call it Chrysler here in Detroit. But what I'm trying to tell you guys is go back to school, lower the cost of living in your own household. Start to lower and then spend more money on your investments. You know, everything that I make, my personal expenses is less than $1,000. Every single thing that I make, I'm going to be absolutely transparent with you. I throw it all into investments. If this thing go away tomorrow, and a lot of these bag chasers, a lot of these Patreon members, you know how much I make. You know what it is that I make on my regular job. You know what I make with my W-2s. You know what I make on YouTube. I'll be absolutely transparent with you. And the Patreon members can tell you. They've seen it. I've logged into my accounts. There's plenty of people that actually know how much I make from YouTube. I make over $100,000 a month on YouTube. That is a fact. If you want to see it, you're more than welcome to log into the Patreon and see it for yourself. I make well over $100,000 a month off of YouTube, and none of these YouTubers and none of these content creators can touch me. Unless you're one of the big dogs, you can't really touch me. I make over one of the things that I do when I give over into my Patreon members and my bag chasers is the secrets of how it is that I'm able to monetize. And that's just from AdSense. That don't have nothing to do with sponsorships. That has nothing to do with licensing. That has nothing to do with interviews. It has nothing to do with long-term prospects and what it is that I'm leveraging the content for. I make, and this is just a fact, I make over $100,000 a month on YouTube. That is a fact. I make over $500,000 a year on my regular job. That is a fact. You can go and look at my W-2s. You can go and look at what it is that I got going on YouTube. I make over another $500,000 a year on my web development company. That is a fact. I make over $39,000 a month in real estate. That is a fact. I average $2,300 a month in rent per property for 17 properties going forward, and I'm continuing to build them. But my personal expenses is less than $1,000 a month. Well, why is that? Well, Anton is very, very careful, because if it's not a business expense, then I will not at all, in any way, shape, or form, spend money on it. That's number one. Number two, everything that I make has to go into what it is that I'm investing in long term, because I have a number that I am trying to hit to where I never, ever, I'm already in a space to where I never have to work again, right? The other side of it is I want my investments to be able to maintain my lifestyle when I decide that I want to retire from all of this. So I plow everything I can into making sure that I reduce my tax burden while also building up the amount of money that I'm making passively. 95, 96, 97% of everything I make goes into the businesses. Reinvesting in myself, right? I have that safety net. I'll always be able to make whatever it is that I'm making. Somebody said I'm capping. Well, go into the Patreon and look at it for yourself. I show all of my people my receipts. My receipts are there. So we don't have to depend on what it is that I say. All you got to do is go and look at my W-2s. All you got to do is go and look at what it is that I'm building and my real estate and my properties that I'm showing. You can go and look at my numbers. You can go and look at what it is that I generated. You can go and look at my reports. You can go and look at my direct deposits. You can go and look at my brokerage account. It's all right there on YouTube. It's all right there. People that are on this live stream right now, they've seen it. The point that I'm trying to make for you guys is this. You have a unique opportunity to invest in yourself to where you no longer have to be dependent on this strike. You no longer have to be interdependent on this strike in order to make sure that all of this is going the way that you're supposed to go. All right? That's all I want to share with you guys. Let me see a little bit more of what it is that he has to say.
Hey, Phil, how do you expect this to go with the other companies? Is this a blueprint, basically? And from what I heard, what is it, 25% of a pay increase? Is that the expectation that GM and Stellantis have to step up to that? Or are there other outstanding issues that are different at those two companies versus Ford?
The contracts will be similar, but there are differences. Let's take Stellantis. A big push from the UAW is to reopen the plant just outside of Rockford, Illinois, Belvedere. It's the Belvedere plant. They shut down production. They idled it earlier this year. They have no intention on restarting that plant. Stellantis does not. And they've made that clear all along. They want to right-size their capacity in the United States. Well, the UAW is like, we want that plant reopened. So what happens with that plant? Do they repurpose it as a mega hub for parts and distribution? One idea that has been floated out there. That's not the same level of pay as a final assembly plant. So that's one area, one example, Becky, where the contract with Stellantis has different sticking points than the contract with Ford or the contract with GM. But they're generally speaking, in terms of the wage increase, they're generally going to be in the same area. Expect them likely to come in that 25%.
To that point, Phil, just speak to this. How far does this trickle out? Meaning, I know we're talking about these specific companies, but, you know, all of the suppliers, everybody that's in this ecosystem is now going to effectively try to trade, and the employees specifically, even those that are non-unionized, are going to use these as new baselines for everything or not?
Yep. Yes. Now, do I think that they're going to get 25% for some of these suppliers? No, I don't think they're going to get 25%. But you're right, Andrew. This resets the map across the board in the auto industry, not only for UAW supplier shops, but also for non-union ones. And in terms of final assembly, we've talked about this for some time. You can bet that the pay is going to go up for Honda plants, Toyota plants, all of the non-union foreign automaker plants in this country, the pay for those workers will go up. It's not going to be as much as they are at the UAW shops, but it will go up.
Is it doable for Ford to stay wildly profitable? And do they have to stay with ICE? They have to stay with internal? We're going to hear something from them similar to what we heard from GM. I mean, the good times are rolling right now. Money's rolling in, but the minute there's inventory sitting on the lot that people don't want, are the taxpayers going to end up stuck with this? What is a pretty big pay increase here?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're to a point where we're talking about taxpayers being stuck with a pay increase.
That's what people are worried about.
For Jim Farley and for Bill Ford.
That's the way it always happens. That's the way it always happens.
Joe, it's a separate discussion. Let's just talk about this one in terms of what Bill Ford and Jim Farley have to do. They have to thread the needle here. They're not giving up on electric vehicles. They believe, and most in the auto industry believe, almost everybody in the auto industry believes, the future is with electric vehicles.
And it's coming, because anytime that the government incentivizes you and they starting to add infrastructure updates in order to get it, it's coming. So let me read a few of the super chats really shortly, and then we're going to continue on with the show. Let me see what we got here. Iceberg Slim is in the building, says, Anton, do you think the government should change the age of being an adult from 18 to 21? I do, personally. I do. I don't think that the age should be 18. I think that the age should be 22, to be honest with you. I think that the age to be considered an adult should be 22 years old. That's my personal opinion. The age to be an adult should be 22 years old. That's my personal opinion. That's where I stand on it. Oh, I gotta give her a drum roll. Rita, my wife, says, so proud of you and the man you have become. Keep doing you. I appreciate you and all that you do. I love you. Thank you, Rita. Rita got paid today, too. Just to let y'all know, Rita got paid today, too. Brittany B says, 32-hour work week was a control. It would have never passed on a membership floor with us. It was used to get other things. Shout out to Big Daddy Fan. Come on, man. You knew that they knew what he was playing. You knew that they knew what he was playing, Brittany. I can't wait to run into Brittany. I can't wait to see Brittany in D.C. Ken J says these companies are just going to make themselves more resilient to all of this. The end of times is coming for low-wage workers. I appreciate you, Ken J. And then Greg Charlie says, nothing in that contract prevents them from using more robots. I watch contractors work on a machine every day that cut 4 jobs on a door line. That is where they will cut costs. I agree with you. Wealth Building Journey in the building says, whenever the government incentivizes anything, fraud is not too far behind. Look at the Paycheck Protection Plan. Act foolishness. Thank you, my friend, Wealth Building Journey. Thank you for rocking out with me. So here's the question that I have. Now that we have record contracts and record profits and all of this stuff, and money is flowing and everything is going great, right? Everybody getting money. Everybody getting money, and the money is flowing everywhere, right? Here's my question for you. What is a scab? What is a scab? I am very, 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 very confused because I don't know if a scab is just as it refers to the people that then cross the picket line in order to continue to work, or is it anybody that then don't agree with the union? I seen them over there at Motor City calling everybody a scab. Shout out to Josh the Roofer. Shout out to Aaron. I'm going to be reading those super chats shortly. I've seen a lot of people called scabs lately, but this is what's basically happening out here in these streets. Let me share my screen with you guys. Hold on one second. This is what's happening out here in these streets. Hold on. Let me see if I can get that up. Give me a second.
News reporter Ruta Alsonaida picks up our team coverage at the Stellantis Sterling Heights assembly plant. Ruta.
Yeah, you guys. Well, a bit of a different scene from what Brett was seeing over in Wayne with the Ford plant. These strikers, they are still very much out. And when I talked to them about Ford getting that deal, they really had two words they kept saying: hope and relief. Hopeful that they can get that deal done too, and relieved that Ford was able to get it done. Now, this plant here, almost 7,000 workers strong. They've only been on strike since Monday. For some, this is their very first day of striking, but they say they appreciate those Wayne Ford workers that have been doing this for about 6 weeks now and feel hopeful they'll be next to get that deal. And this plant is a moneymaker for Stellantis. It's also the largest plant where they make the Ram light-duty pickup trucks. And the walkout here came after Fain says there were shortcomings from the offers that Stellantis was putting out to the UAW. Clearly a different story with Ford there. And these workers hope this sets a pattern. Now that one company has struck a deal, that this trickles down and the other two quickly follow suit.
It's usually a domino effect, for the most part. Like I said, we're going to stay optimistic that, if they can do it, then, we should be able to reach something tentative. That sounds good. Sounds great.
I ain't want to be out here too long, so by Ford coming up with their deal, that means GM and then Stellantis going to follow right behind them.
So the workers are now very, very, very hopeful. And see, this is one of the reasons why it's also important for companies to stick together, even if they're opponents when it comes to their ability to sell cars, but they have to combine forces in order to make sure that they all get the same kind of deal all together, because when one company then strikes a deal, you then get a reinvigoration amongst the unions and the people that are striking. You then get an opportunity for them to start feeling more enthusiastic about the possibility of them getting a deal also, because they looking at the people over at Ford and they're like, oh man, wait a minute. They got a deal coming. They got a deal. I don't want to be out here. I was tired, boss. I'm tired of striking. I'm tired of feeling it's getting cold outside. I got my Lions hat on. The Lions lost last weekend. They got beat up. Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus, we need something to root for. They not trying to be out there. They don't want to be out there suffering, beating on drums, stopping people from coming into the plant and everything like that. And so what happens is when one of the automakers then strike a deal, which maybe it was strategic for them to do so to put their competitors at a disadvantage now is reinvigorating the other workers, because Ford is happy and their employees like, skip that. See, you ain't going to see Ford employees out there helping them and striking over at the Stellantis plants, because they was all in solidarity when they was all in the same boat. But now that we got to deal, we going back to work. We got to feed our families. We going back to work. We got to feed our families. Listen, is the UAW all on the same page, or is it solidarity just when it's convenient for you? Is all I want to know. Is it solidarity when it's convenient, or are they all on the same page? Ford, like, skip that. We putting our pickets, we going inside. Because it was solidarity with the casino workers and the truck workers and Ford and Chrysler and GM just a minute ago. But now, all of a sudden, Ford workers is like, no, we good. We good. We going in. It's cold outside. We got our cost of living adjustment. We got our 25% pay raise. We happy to get back to work. I would bet you that union, they are going to, on Sunday, make sure that they ratify that agreement immediately. Let's continue, though.
And they say they're hopefully optimistic, just keeping their eyes out to see if they'll get that deal soon. If Shawn Fain was able to do it with one of the companies, they're seeing if he can do it with the other two.
Let me share with you something else that's going on, right? So while Ford and all of them are putting their signs down, on the other end of the spectrum, they still out there suffering at GM and Chrysler, though.
On this 41st day of the strike, strikers at the Jeep assembly plant, they were greeted this morning to a line of cars and buses trying to cross the picket line to get into the factory to work. Michael Sandlin joins us live from outside Toledo North. And Michael, who are these workers?
Well, Jeff, we've finally learned that they were actually not scabs. The people that pulled up this morning were workers who were assigned to be there. I just received a text a few minutes ago from Local 12's Chairman Mike Sawaya, who told me he learned from the mayor and the chief of police, who told him that they needed to be there, and there was some point of confusion this morning where they thought they were scabs, and that led to some serious confrontations at the factory.
There's more traffic here than normal. They had buses that were actually trying to get in the gates.
How does that happen?
And being that there's so much traffic, it's abnormal, which means they're trying to get people in here.
It was a confusing start to the morning. A line of vehicles half a mile long were trying to get inside the Jeep plant, and many of those at the picket line immediately concluded those vehicles were full of their replacements.
We're fighting for the working class citizens of America. So when you cross a picket line, whether it be a UAW picket line, a Teamster picket line, any union picket line, you're a scab, and in my eyes, you're a disgrace to our country.
So what she's basically saying is that they're fighting for the working class of the country. And when you cross that picket line, you are now an enemy because you are a disgrace to the country. So when they get temporary workers, when people are trying to come in, when things are starting to run a little bit differently, when you see your replacement or people possibly coming in order to do some work inside of the plant, that's when they call you a scab. That's when they call you a scab. So a scab is anybody. It's not just the workers that work for it that may be in a union with you. A scab is anybody that could cross that picket line that could then give the company some type of advantage that allow them to continue to run that plant that then could possibly replace you. Okay, I'm with it.
In my eyes, you're a disgrace to our country.
But Stellantis says that's not the case. In a statement to WTOL 11, Stellantis said, quote, Stellantis is not hiring replacement workers at the Toledo Assembly Complex. A third party has been hired to assist with other needs at the complex not related to production during the UAW strike, end quote. And on a phone call with the Stellantis spokesperson, the company said it would take 5,500 workers to get the plant operational again, more than just a few hundred cars could handle.
They wouldn't be able to run actual production, but they would be able to do certain aspects of different, repairs and cars and stuff like that.
Scabs or not, the strikers did everything in their power to prevent even a single vehicle from crossing the line, standing in front of the vehicles and chanting, all while Toledo police monitored the situation closely.
They were fine with how we were doing it, the amount of time that we were doing it, every so often we'd have to let somebody go.
Sawaya estimates that more than 200 people ended up making it inside the factory, but he says they were also able to send multiple cars away. Something the strikers say still counts as a little victory as they continue to try to disrupt the day-to-day of the company.
Striking and picketing is not a waste of our time, as you just seen. We will prevail.
This isn't the first time the UAW is
How do they got orthotics? They got comfortable shoes and stuff like that. That walking for all of that long time, that's got to be tough on you.
Use the big three of hiring scabs either. Last month, UAW President Shawn Fain accused the big three of hiring scabs to commit violence against picketers. In a statement from last month, Stellantis said they were, quote, appalled by those accusations.
I think that Shawn Fain, honestly, eventually will go down in history and then eventually take a job or a consulting position with a larger company. I do. I honestly do. I think that Shawn Fain has gotten famous and he has gotten more visibility from this. And I think he's going to continue to either A, be a union president until he then retires and become a consultant, or B, at some point join corporate America in their ranks because he understands intimately how to break the union or how the union operates. That's my prediction for Shawn Fain. I think that this is the best thing that could have ever happened to him. I didn't even know who Shawn Fain was until a few months ago. I never even knew who Shawn Fain was until a few months ago. But Shawn is now going to capitalize from this, and it is going to be a good opportunity for him to continue to grow from it And so we about to see. Shawn ain't necessarily getting no pay cut either, but we're going to continue to monitor the situation. As long as I'm at the forefront of this movement, you better believe I'm going to be paying attention to what's going on. Let me read a couple of super chats, and then we're going to move over with the show. Josh says, yo, Anton, I'm a bag chaser. Been trying to start a shoe resale business. Where can I find your content on how to resell your shoes? Well, I do talk about it a little bit in the mastermind. I don't have a specific video dedicated to it. I talk about it a little bit of the mastermind as far as what my strategy was when I had my shoe selling business. And I had it for multiple different reasons. And my daughter was running it, and so I was teaching her the game. But I will say that my strategy was a little bit different. I think that most shoe sellers are looking to make a small profit, so they're looking to do a quick flip, and they don't have the money in order to hold on to it. Also, on top of that, I think that trying to sell it online, you're going to, like a StockX or GOAT, I think that you're going to forego a lot of profit. One of the ways in which I think people then capitalize a little bit more is either holding on to their inventory a little bit more until there's less available for people, which means that you get a higher markup. So that causes for you to invest more money and to be able to hold on long to it. I don't know what your bankroll looks like. But also on top of it, I think that if you're going to be doing quick flips, then you should probably leverage Facebook Marketplace locally. Now, you got to be careful because there's security concerns regarding that. And I'm just giving you a general overview, right? Just because I want to make sure that I add value into your life. But Facebook Marketplace and selling it locally instead of getting the fees and based off of the convenience on the other side. So you're going to have a trade-off either way. And right now, there's not a huge market for the online marketplace unless you got a plug that's helping you to get it for a lot cheaper, which most people don't. But there's not a huge demand for unique sneakers unless you can find some of the ones that, like I got Fear Guys, I got the Kobe's, the Undefeateds, I got the Grinch Kobe's. I still got all of that stuff in there, and they never worn. But I'm holding on to those things for a longer period of time because it allows for the price to continue to go up versus what it is that I paid for it. And so if you're able to hold on to inventory, think about it more like the diamond business, right? The value of diamonds is not really that high, but the perceived scarcity of it is the thing that drives the price up, right? So you can mine it out a little bit or whatever, but and I can deep dive into it a little bit more, but my strategy was long term. And I had the bankroll to be able to do it. So that's how I leveraged it, and that's how I made the majority of my money. So I plowed a lot of money into it, and then I was able to be profitable as a result of it once I started getting rid of the sneakers. Aaron says, no, they should lower it to 13. We suffer from arrested development, push responsibility back, and more adults will act like children. They should push what to 13? The age of an adult? Wait. Aaron, you saying that they should lower it to 13. We suffer from arrested development, push responsibility back, and more adults will act like children. What? Aaron, that's wild. I can't even give you a bell for that one. We just going to agree to disagree on that one. You telling me that a person should be an adult at 13 years old? Let me read that one more time just to make sure that we all on the same page here. AL says, no, they should lower it to 13. We suffer from arrested development, push responsibility back, and more adults will act like children. Hold on.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, hold on one second. Hold on, that's the wrong Aaron. I called the wrong Aaron. Hey, if you reading this, call me, bro. We got to talk about this one. Hold on, let me see something. If you reading this, call me, bro. I need you to explain this one to me. You got to explain this super chat to me, bro. AL, call me, bro. You got my phone number. You got to you got to come to the front of the congregation for this one, bro. That one is wild. That's a wild one. Let me read that one more time just to make sure that we all on the same page here. No, they should lower the age to 13. We suffer from arrested development, push responsibility back, and more adults will act like children. What up, bro?
What's good?
You got to explain this one to me. No, they should lower it to 13. We suffer from arrested development, push responsibility back, and more adults will act like children.
Yes.
What do you mean? You think that they should lower the age for an adult to 13?
Yes. Throughout history, if you notice throughout history, adulthood started around 13, or 12 to 13.
Wait. Talking to the phone. You try to talk up a little bit. You said what now?
Most cultures. Better now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Most cultures throughout history had the rites of passage for adulthood at 12 to 13 years old. You can see that still within you're on Love Street, so I'm going to say the J community. And you see that if you look at historically throughout most tribes and cultures, they started their adulthood trial and their adulthood trials or trials with manhood around 13 years old. Now, even your grandparents, your great-great-great-great-grandparents were working at 5 years old, to be honest with you. So they had a better sense of responsibility. And if you notice, the more we push adulthood back, the more people who are adults act like children. So you have people who are right now 40 years old act like they're 15.
Well, we have more insight to understand that your brain is not even fully developed until you're 25, and they didn't have that level of insight and scientific data to actually substantiate that. More importantly, what they would do is they were basically taking advantage of child labor. So people, maybe he lost his connection. I don't know, bro. No. I do not believe that the age should be 13. Aaron, you can go ahead and you give me a call back, but apparently he lost. Okay, here we go. He must be losing his connection. Yeah, go ahead. You all right over there, man? You got bad connection?
No, it's better now. I was walking to a different one. So I understand what you're saying, but because your brain is less developed, actually that's the reason why you should start adulthood earlier, because now you can adapt to adult responsibilities. Whereas if you wait until your brain is fully developed, now it's harder to adapt to adult responsibilities. So, for example, like the older you get, the more stubborn you get. And so if you've been acting like a child your whole life, and all of a sudden now you're throwing the responsibility, your brain is developed. Now you can't.
No. That's why you have a father and a mother, because they're supposed to let you fail in controlled environments, not let you get bust down by another grown man.
No, I'm not talking about sex. Oh, I'm not talking about sex-wise. I'm talking about.
What do you mean? No. If you're an adult at 13, that means you're able to make adult decisions. How can you push the age back to 13, but then you don't allow for them to be able to participate in sexual activities?
Same reason why you have people who are of certain ages who could. Same reason why you can have somebody at 18 years old vote, but you can't have them drink.
Yeah, but I don't think that you should be able to let them do anything until they're 22 years old. Okay, so wait a minute. Are you saying that they should have adult responsibilities such as what? What do these adult responsibilities entail?
Working. You need to have a job.
At 13, you need to have a job.
Yes, absolutely.
What else?
You should be able to have responsibilities in terms of voting.
A 13-year-old should be able to vote?
Yeah, absolutely. You should be able to legally start. You should legally be able to start businesses on your own.
You can do that through your parents.
But both parents, I don't think a lot of parents are sophisticated enough to even.
So if the parents is not sophisticated enough to be able to do it, why should a 13-year-old be able to do it?
Because there's a lot of 13-year-olds who are well ahead of their parents.
All right, what else should they be able to do?
I mean, just other adult things, right? You should be
Like
able to
what? Give me an example.
Just like maybe signing a contract to be able to get into certain businesses and everything like that. I think
So we got adults that sign bad contracts. We have people that's getting a master's finesse. We got basketball players that's making bad deals. People making bad NIL deals. People making lifetime bad decisions. But you think that they should be able to sign contracts at 13 years old when their brain is not even fully developed?
Yes. The point of your brain not being fully developed means you have time to grow and adjust.
That's what a parent allows for you to do. They're supposed to teach you how to do things differently instead of allowing for you to then be able to be taken advantage of. What do you mean?
I'm teaching them that.
If their parents don't even know, what makes you think that they're able to make a decision like that? Bro, at 13 years old, I would have crashed the hell out. At 13, being able to make adult decisions, I would have crashed out.
At 13, I was making adult decisions.
Stop. Okay. What else should they be able to do?
Adult things, like, I don't think that, like, I understand what you're talking about with the sexual stuff, so I can exclude that. But everything else, I think you should be able to do as an adult.
So how is it any different from the hypocritical statement that we've just identified as far as you being able to vote, go to war at 18, but you're not able to drink alcohol? How is it any different as far as the sexual part? How can you say somebody is an adult but they can't have sex?
Same way.
So you can start a business, you can vote for who your leader of the country is, you can do all of that, but you can't make a decision on having sex. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. We have exclusions for everything. Just like you can't get a rental car until you're 25. It's always a
You can get a rental car before you're 25. What are you talking about? Who told you that?
It's harder. I feel like it's very hard for you to get.
It's not very hard for you to get a rental car before you're 25.
It is.
It's not. Okay, what do you mean? I travel every day.
That's not even a law. That's not even a law, so it don't really matter. But at the end of the day, there's restrictions on everything until you're a certain ages, even after your adulthood. So I don't understand why that can't be an
like what? What after 21 years old? What restriction do you have? Where? Give me an example.
But, all right, but 18.
No. Nope. At 21, stop. At 21, what restriction do you have in anywhere and to do anything as an adult?
That I can think of, not that much.
Name me one thing.
I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head. Not legally. So.
And you think that adulthood should be pushed back to 13?
Yes. Now there could be a way you could do it, right? So, for example, if you say, hey, you got to go through a rites of passage at 13 years old. If you pass our rites of passage, then you could become an adult. That's fair too. We could try that. There's ways you could go about it.
Like what? What's the rites of passage?
Well, we could do rites of passage in terms of intelligence, in terms of measuring responsibility, maturity, right? There's ways to we could put around tests, right? Just like the other group does tests, right? Just like the J community, they have a set of tests that allows you to become an adult within their community.
Okay, Aaron.
So, like I said, it doesn't have to necessarily be a free for all, but we should ensure, like, I think pushing it forward will ensure people being less responsible well into their adulthood, their 40s. Right now, people are starting mature at 30. If you push it back further, people are going to start being responsible at 40, 50.
What?
I'm telling you, this look how people act right now on TV. Look how people act right now. You can turn on TV right now and you see how people act like a fool in their mid-30s, 40s sometimes.
All right, Aaron.
I'm just saying. And I think that's a result. You didn't see that 100 years ago.
You wasn't born 100 years ago.
Sure.
Sure what? What are you talking about?
I wasn't born 100 years ago. You're right.
So what do you mean you didn't see it 100 years ago? What are you talking about? 100 years ago, we were going through the Great Depression. People didn't even have money. People didn't even have bread. They had to stand in line in order to get food. Half the country was out of work. The whole country was practically going to war. The whole stock market had crashed. 100 years ago, we were in the worst space that we possibly ever have since the inception of this country. What are you talking about?
Okay. We still have more adult responsibility. Yes,
we were dying. What do you mean? This whole country was falling apart.
Number one, 100 years ago, the rate of president was not around 1923. It was a booming economy. It was the best economy we ever had.
It wasn't. It was set up for us to fail, and that's the reason why the recession during that time, the depression during that time was so bad. It's the same thing that you can use as a talking point as to the predecessor to what happened during the recession in 2008. It was a perception of wealth, but it wasn't, because it was ultimately set up for the middle class and for the lower class to suffer because we had a calling at that time.
But you're talking about economics. I'm talking about responsibility. You're talking about.
No, you brought it up. You said we had a booming economy and all of this stuff.
No. I said 100 years ago, people were more responsible.
No, they weren't. They were suffering, and then people were taking advantage of these little kids, because that's why they had a bunch of kids, because they wanted to use them in order to continue to make sure that they survived and built farms and all of that other type of stuff. People were having kids in order to make them workers. They weren't more responsible. They didn't have a choice because they was forced into labor at that particular time. As we continue to evolve and grow, and we got better technology and more data and science in order to make better decisions, we're supposed to protect our children. And that's one of, listen, you can say 100 years ago they had racism. 300 years ago, 400 years ago, we was in slavery. People were more responsible. Black people prayed more. Was slavery still a bad thing? Abso-fucking-lutely. It don't mean that we're supposed to go back to that. It means we're supposed to learn from it in order to evolve and become better versions of ourselves. You don't go back to the thing that you came from. You start to use it as a jump off point in order to make better decisions going forward. There's no way in the world. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even let my daughter leave the house until after she's married, well into her 20s. And even when she is married, they can still stay with me. Why would I then give her a responsibility? Dog, my daughter is 15. There's no way in the world I would ever consider her an adult. And she is more mature than a lot of people.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think a 22-year-old, you in your first 22 years of your life, no responsibility, and now all of a sudden,
who said that you don't have? Why do you keep saying no responsibilities just because you're not necessarily classified? You have plenty of responsibilities, and that's why we need parents. The problem isn't that we need to push the age of adulthood back. The problem is that we need to make sure that there's 2-parent households.
Well, obviously that's not a reality.
That is a reality.
A lot of people do not have 2-parent households.
Jesus Christ.
And even the people with the 2-parent households, they're still trash. A lot of those people are still trash.
I gotta finish the show, bro. This is crazy. AL, you are out of your mind.
Hey, maybe.
That's your response. Okay. All right. Let me. I love you too, but this is that black schooling.
Nah, it's a study history.
No, this is the product of HBCUs. This is the product of that. I gotta go. HBCUs, y'all out here ruining our community by making sure that y'all educating these people wrong. Let me continue on. Jesus Christ. Enforcer 2K9 says you fighting for the working class, but people who want to work are a disgrace to the country. Make that make sense. You're fighting for yourself. Shout out to Enforcer 2K9. I was speaking to that specific video that we just played. Bag for Bag is in the building, says, I've been thinking this whole time Shawn has been using the strike as a resume buffer, and once this is done, he's going to a bigger company with more pay. You just confirmed my thoughts. That's my opinion. Iceberg Slim is in the building, says, AL pulling up to the local middle school. Crazy, dog. Says 13, I dare a grown man to come to my house to try to holler at my baby girl who can't even drive. I'll absolutely do time in a Supermax with fleece. Facts. That's a fact, though. Justin Phillips said, I got that fireball. I'm going to drop that in the collection plate. Shout out to you. 187 says, Anton, is that Freaky Jason on the phone? Aaron is a good guy. He's just a little bit misguided. We're going to fix him. Aaron Woe 218 says, the other Aaron watching too much of Game of Thrones. That's why I don't watch TV, man. Justin Phillips says, raising the age creates a host of new issues. Would people have to pay child support till 22? I don't think AL is right, but he has some fair points. See how we start to go down this rabbit hole? You see how we start to go down this rabbit hole? Y'all start seeing the good in it. We don't have to pay child support for 13 years. Y'all are crazy. Get that on up out of your head. Get that out of your spirit. Gray Lee says, served and fought at 17 and 18 in the Army. The only issue, I was dealing with older people who swore they knew better and finding love, which is a waste. Shout out to Gray Lee in the building. I appreciate you. Blue Collar Gent says, Daddy, I'm a man now. I slayed a saber tooth. Shout out to Blue Collar Gent in the building. I appreciate you. J-Rock, shout out to J-Rock, says they should reinstate the draft for the Pookies and Ray-Rays of all genders and races. Shout out to J-Rock. J Denor 89 says, Pedo alert, Pedo alert. Aaron is a good dude. Shout out to Miss Crow T. Shetty, came through with the 10 ball. I appreciate you. Absolutely, positively awesome. All right, let's continue over with the show. So we talked about scabs. And one thing that I want to talk about is home affordability. Make sure y'all get the likes up. Make sure y'all get the subscribe to the channel. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Let's see what's happening with home affordability, y'all. Let's get to the money.
Big news that's impacting millions of home buyers and sellers.
Yeah, just this week, the average mortgage rate in this country on a 30-year fixed loan hit a stunning 8%. It's the highest that it's been since 2000.
Yeah, it's a wow. And here to break it all down, NBC's Vicki Nguyen. Vic, good morning. So, I mean, if you are looking to buy or sell a house with mortgage rates at these historic highs, what do you do?
8% is not great for buyers. It's obvious why. But think about this. 70% of people who sell the home, they become a buyer, too, because they have to get another home. Let's say you bought a home for $300,000 2 years ago when rates were 3%. Your mortgage was about $1,000. Now it's $1,700. So it is a significant increase. The one bright spot on the horizon, the National Association of Realtors is saying that by 2024, the end of 2024, we could see rates drop to 6%.
Okay, so what goes up must come down. So should we be waiting until 2024 to buy?
I don't think that rates are going to go down. And I could be off on this. I don't think that rates are going to go down. Listen, Feds raising rates is one of the main ways that they're able to fight inflation. It's one of the only ways, them and not printing so much money. And then also the federal government then starting to get our spending in order and not allocating so much money over into these migrant crises. But that's neither here nor there. One of the main ways that the Fed has an ability to visibly, in order to lower whatever it is that's happening as far as inflation, is to raise rates. Rates making things more expensive then pushes down inflation, because it's not just money and printing money that then drives the value of the dollar going down. The cost of living, pushing off the costs associated with continuing to have consumers participate in society, is one of the ways in which inflation is going up. So when you make money too cheap and you make it accessible to everybody, then that drives up the cost of it, because the value of something is what somebody is willing to pay for it. Let me break it down for you. The value of something, think of art. Think of a car. Think of a classic car. Most cars we know is a depreciating asset. Asset meaning that it still has value, right? But it's a depreciating asset, meaning that when you drive it off the lot, or the more miles that you accumulate on that vehicle, or the more that you drive it, the more you have wear and tear, the less valuable it becomes, right? Cars often depreciate 10 to 20% the minute that you drive it off the lot. So when you spend money on it, let's say you spend $50,000 on a car, and you tried to resell that car after you drive it 5,000 miles, the value of that car is going to be significantly lower than what you paid for it. Now, on the flip side of it, you can use the idea of a car, right? And then I'm going to relate this back to housing. You can use the idea of a car, but what type of car? The ones that are scarce, the ones that are in low demand. If you go and get a Ford GT, I just bought a 96 Impala SS, right? If you look at the sticker of that car, the value of that car and what people are paying for them, especially in that particular condition, is worth $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more than what you could have bought it for back in 1996 new. Whereas if you go and get a Ford Escort, it's going to be a completely different conversation, right? So the value of something is what people are willing to pay for it, which also contributes to what inflation is. We value gold. We value homes. We value real estate. We value things that are rare. They're limiting the amount of diamonds that they're putting into circulation in order to inflate the prices of it, right? So my point is this. When they made money cheap in order to continue to keep the economy humming, to keep people spending, because we don't necessarily build anything in the United States of America anymore, the value of that thing shot up because everybody was trying to get it at the same time. Rates was 2.5%, 3%. 2.5%, 3%. On top of that, everybody was working from home and nobody had to go into the office. So the real estate market shot up like crazy. A lot of people were buying homes with no inspection. And then it turned into a bidding war, which means that people were paying $100,000 and $200,000 more than what the listing price was or what the comps was going for the house that was comparable to it that sold a year ago. Right? Which means that inflation, the cost of housing for that particular market was going up. The value of food, gas, everything, it was going up. For multiple different reasons, inflation was going up, right? But demand is one of the reasons why. And demand, or the lack thereof, because very few people are choosing to sell their house. Why? Because they don't have enough money to be able to buy another house without having a house payment. So they want to lock in that particular rate. Unless you're over in California and you sell your house and then you go and move over to Texas, you bring your voting patterns over there, right? They want to lock in that particular rate because they don't want to have to spend that money to finance another house and pay a lot more in interest. They don't want to pay 7-8% in interest, right? So my point is this. It is an artificial market and we can manipulate it to be whatever it is that we want it to be as long as we're marketing it properly. The whole idea of a 30-year mortgage is a marketing scheme by the banks in order for them to continue to make money off the interest that you're depositing your money in the bank for, right? So how is this going to work? Okay, well, we make money in cash less valuable and we want to move over into a digital currency, which then forces you to have to hold your money in an institution, which then allows for them to be able to leverage your money and loan it out to other people and then make money off of your money. And that's the reason why they market to you a 30-year mortgage. And the affordability or the housing market is going to continue to sustain itself. And I don't personally believe, I can't predict it, I don't know what the Fed is going to do. I don't personally believe by the end of 2024 that mortgage rates are going to fall, or rates in general are going to fall to 6% by the year end. I don't believe it.
Idea?
Great question, and one where you need to look at what's happening right now. Do you have a great rental rate per month, and will you be diligent in saving towards a down payment for the next year and a half? Then yeah, go ahead and wait. We talked to Stacey Esser. She heads her own realty group. Obviously, she's very bullish on buying because real estate agents will say it's very tricky to time the market. It's dynamic. Look, if you were waiting for rates to drop 2 years ago, you'd be kicking yourself right now because home prices haven't gone down either. But the number you really want to look at is your monthly payment. Can you comfortably afford the home that you want with an emergency fund, with a 20% down payment? Instead of freaking out about the rate, think about that number.
So the thing that people need to understand is they need to, and I hate to say this because people have been so programmed that it's difficult for them to unlearn these concepts. The first thing that you need to understand is that everything is cyclical. What does Anton mean by saying that everything is cyclical? I am basically telling you that there's going to be ups and downs and ups and downs. And I remember during the pandemic, I literally didn't buy anything. The only thing that I was buying during the pandemic was land because I thought that everything was grossly overpriced and people were paying an egregious amount of money for, and I wasn't willing to get into a bidding war just to be able to acquire another property, right? So I was very patient. I chilled, right? Slow motion. I pivoted. I did some research. I decided that I wanted to go into another venture. And so I decided to get into development. It was something that I never did before. And so I wanted to participate in it, right? And if people divest themselves from the traditional way by which they've been marketed to, they'll start to look at their investments a little bit different. The only thing that you need to be doing is focusing on the idea of continuing to beat the rate of inflation and making sure that you're investing, which means that your money continues to grow, and every dollar is an employee. Doesn't matter what business you in, don't matter what your expertise is. Everybody is going to have a different talent than everybody. Everybody don't have to be in the real estate game. It was just like trucking. Everybody ran and jumped into trucking, but it's people that know the trucking game that's still making money from trucking, and then everybody washed out as a result of it, because it may not necessarily be for everybody, but the goal is to make money. And so just because you need shelter don't mean that you have to overpay for it just to be able to get into the real estate game. Your goal is to preserve cash and revenue that you can then allocate towards other things that's going to make you money long term. What difference do it make what vehicle you get into as long as it's legal and as long as you continue to beat the rate of inflation? Your goal is to have shelter. What they've marketed to you is mini mansions and McMansions and, hey, buying a house is better than renting a house because the banks actually is going to make more money as a result of it, and then you can have more competition in the marketplace. What people don't realize is that it's literally a marketing ploy to get you to finance things that you don't need in order to prove things to people that don't even care about you. That's really what it comes back down to. It's not that housing is unaffordable. What it really means is that the house that you want and where you want to live, you can't afford to do so. That's the truth. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Housing is not unaffordable. It's the house that you want and a lifestyle that you want to live in order to prove something to people that don't care anything about you is not affordable. You got to live in a specific house, and it's got to be so many square feet and all of this other type of stuff. The goal for a home is to provide shelter so that you can lay your head safely at night and then ensure that nobody comes in and break in and take your stuff so that you can have a level of protection, and then you can go and live your life however you want to live it. I'll give you an example. People ask me every day, right? The place that I just got down here, I live my life like an open book. I have no problem with it. I'm a little bit more careful of the things that I share with the people. But in a general sense, the place that I'm living downtown, it's the highest price point for an apartment. I own a bunch of real estate, but I've always believed that the place that I live in, I've always wanted to rent it. I never want to actually own the place that I live in. And it's other reasons for that. And I'm not going to get into it here because this is a public platform. But for the price that I'm paying, and I'm paying about $10,000 a month for the place that I'm moving into, or my second place that I have down here in downtown Detroit, right? And for the price that I'm paying, technically, I can get a massive, huge place that I want to live in. I don't want to live in a massive place. The biggest place that I've ever lived in my entire life is a place that was 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. I still own it today, right? And it was just, I hated it. It didn't align with my lifestyle. And so take the price out of it of what it is that I'm going to pay for the next place. Take the price out of it, right? Here's the thing. It's the lifestyle. For me, the views, to live, work, and play all in the same area, to be a part of the fabric and the growth of my city is more important to me than room, because I had a bunch of rooms that I weren't even using. And people are so caught up in square footage instead of, for me, it's being caught up in the lifestyle. You have to go and evaluate what your priorities are. If your priority at 20, 21, 22 years old is to make sure that you graduate from college with no debt, why would you be looking to move out of your parents' household in order to go and acquire more debt just so you can have a level of freedom to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it? Housing is not necessarily tied to real estate. Real estate is the business. Housing is the marketing that's then given to you in order to get you to invest in it and get a 30-year mortgage or become a part of this thing to increase the amount of money that you're spending every day, because we don't necessarily build anything in this country. I was willing to live for free until my father passed away in 2017. We were willing to live for free and not spend anything on housing because it was convenient for me to be able to take care of my mother 2 doors down, and he just so happened to be the maintenance guy of the complex that we were a part of. My daughter was closed, schools was closed, family was closed at that time in my life, and me continuing to build my portfolio Why would I go out and I spend it on something when I didn't have to in the first place? I was living for free. When you guys think of affordability, when you think of housing, you need to hack your life. Because stop falling for the interest rates and marketing employees, and if the market is going to drop or go up or anything like that, start focusing on what you want your life to look like and then tailor it based off of what your needs are and what it is that you're trying to grow into long term. That's going to then determine whether or not you can afford to do something or not afford to do something, and if you need to pivot of whether or not it feeds into the total business lifestyle that you're creating for what it is that you're putting together. Your lifestyle and what you need at that time in your life is going to be much different than what it is that they market to you online or what you look at on a TikTok video. A person that is in college and going to school and going through their residency because they're trying to become a doctor or neurosurgeon or something, his needs and his lifestyle is much different than the person that graduated and went into software engineering or the person that is working at Ford Motor Company and he's making $32, $35, $36 an hour. A person over in California and their needs is going to be much different because they want to live close to the beach than the person that lives over in New York or the person that lives over in Miami or the person that lives in Ohio. Your lifestyle and what you need is going to be different. So stop letting these people market to you what they want you to have, but start evaluating it based off of what you want your lifestyle to be. You don't necessarily have to get a 30-year mortgage. Stop having the fear of missing out, that FOMO. You may be in a position if you got two parents in your household and they not tripping on you being there to where you can live with your parents until you're 27, 28, 29 years old because the only thing you need it for is to sleep anyway. Why go out and spend money on housing when you don't have to, when they got extra bedrooms in the house and it's cool when they like you being there? Why are you so in a rush to move out? Oh man, the society said that I got to go and get a mortgage, or these modern women said, man, forget what she's talking about. What's your bank account looking at? What's your brokerage account looking like? What are you invested in? Are you out of debt? Are you making the right decisions? How much interest are you paying on that loan? The housing game is a finesse. And unless you're looking at it just like you're looking at everything else from a business perspective, you are going to fall for the finesse every single time. I will never move faster than I want to move, not based off of what it is that they marketing to me. And most of y'all shouldn't even be getting 30-year mortgages. If you're going to get a mortgage, at the very least, you should be getting a 15. Yeah, but I can get more house for this. For what? So you can pay more interest?
If you have to move it, let's say you don't have a choice, you have to buy something now. How can you reduce that monthly payment that you just mentioned? How can you bring that down?
You absolutely should make a list of must-haves versus wants. You might want a home gym, but what about location? Don't compromise on where your home is located. You can always switch out the tile in the bathroom, not where it's located close to home, close to school. Maybe you want your kids to be able to walk to school, Hoda. That could be important to some people.
Oh, I see. That could be very important.
How long do you want to stay in that home? 5 years? Do you want them to go kindergarten through 12th grade? Talk to your realtor about these things so they know your priorities. They can streamline this for you and help you make a smart home purchase.
I mean, is it possible you could just refinance? Like if you find the home of your dreams and you think this is the time, you take the high interest mortgage rate and cross your fingers, you can refinance later?
That's exactly it, Savannah. You hear this term they say all the time, date the rate, marry the house. If you've been doing your research and you found the place that's right for you, let's say rates are 8%, maybe next year 6%, you can always refinance. That's important. And also remember, a loan is like any other product. Shop around. If you have really good credit or excellent credit, you should be going to a bunch of lenders and saying, what can you do for me? You don't have to get a loan just through your bank where you save your money right now. This is a really important time to.
Don't get an adjustable rate. I know that's what one of the talking points is. Don't get an arm, y'all. Don't get an arm. Don't get an arm. Don't get an arm. Don't get an adjustable rate mortgage. If you are going to get a mortgage, then go and get a fixed rate mortgage, preferably a 15-year, and try to pay it off as soon as possible, because the more you pay in interest, the more you're giving over into the bank. Look at everything from a business perspective and then make the adjustment accordingly. All right? So mortgage rates hit 8% over this past week, but you don't necessarily have to be a part of the rat race. You can make adjustments. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I will be live streaming. I'm planning to live stream this Sunday in the Patreon. So sometimes you guys just need a reminder of the thing that's best for you so that you don't go out here making bad decisions based off of what's marketed to you. I'm marketing something different to you, all right? William Lucian says, even if the rates fall, the price will go up. We will be in a reverse market crash. The interest rates have to stay elevated for at least 5 years. Shout out to William Lucian in the building. Also, AL says, my son will be a multimillionaire by the time that he's 25, heading a multi-million-dollar business. He's going to have a 5-year head start on his peers. Shout out to Aaron and shout out to his son. Also, on top of that, you should be more concerned with his character. Y'all so busy trying to push y'all kids to be rich. The thing that you didn't say is his character development. You so busy trying to make him. Anyways, shout out to Aaron. Mr. Youngblood City says, help! Help me out, Anton. I want a good neighborhood that's safe with good schools. When I look at the panels online, I see the outcomes of bad schooling. Also, you can become a product in your environment. Let me ask y'all a question, Mr. Youngblood City, because y'all so dedicated to staying in a specific, and I know you on the West Coast, you over there in California. Why don't y'all move to places that's more affordable? Just curious. Why don't y'all move to places? Because if you want a better neighborhood or a better city, you're going to have to lower the type of home that you decide that you want to live in. Shout out to my dog, Mr. Youngblood City, a bag chaser. I appreciate you. Brock in the building is a bag chaser. Said, I got this Pass of Love offering. Let's continue to run it up. Shout out to my dog, Brock. Listen, y'all, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to another edition of the Millionaire Morning Show. I love y'all. Shout out to my Facebook family. I appreciate y'all for continuing to rock with me. And everybody that shows me love, you see the value in what it is that we do here. Can't wait to meet up with y'all in DC and also contributing into what it is that y'all got going on as far as y'all businesses at the end of November. And at the beginning of November, November 4th, we're going to be meeting up in DC. Listen, I love you guys. I appreciate you. I need y'all to do me one more favor before we get up out of here. Black is back, baby. The Beard King is here. Yeah. If you haven't already, make sure you go back and watch the live stream that we did last night on the other channel, the Anton Daniels channel. I sincerely appreciate you guys for allowing me to be able to entertain y'all and get y'all through y'all day. It is an awesome space to be in. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for rocking out with me. Hit a like on your way out the door. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Get that Tej Hanley 30% off your first order plus a free gift. I'm out.